Hey everybody, Simone here with Bulletproof Business Growth. As always with some ideas and insights of what to pay attention to when you are in the process of growing and scaling your business. Now, I'm going to talk about some stuff that is super against popular opinion. We're going to talk about how delegating a lot of times actually creates a prison for our clients instead of the freedom that they're looking for and that they were trying to build when they first started their business, or why they started their business. So, when you think about it, why do people delegate? It's because you need more hands, you need more bandwidth, you need more scale, you need to be able to actually get stuff off your plate so you can focus on what's the most important. Now, what most business owners do is very basic. At the most basic level that we're going to call level 1, you're basically telling people what to do. And there's several problems with that. First of all, nobody really likes being told what to do, so it's immediately builds up a little bit of a barrier. But the other thing is, it just leaves out so much crucial psychological engagement. It leaves out a lot of details usually. It leaves out so many things that are actually what enables and empowers people to do a great job for you. So what we found is that we have to go way further than step 1, which is just basically assigning a task to someone else. So level 1 is that piece. It's, what you're trying to do here is distribute the load. And so you're telling people what to do, you're handing off these little tasks, and it's pretty much just you're giving people tiny bits of information, and unless you keep giving them more bits of information, that's it. They're stuck. They're stuck without you. So the prison that creates for you is that it's always going to be back on you to keep creating tiny bits of information that people then take and do whatever with. And it also creates that scenario where you're going to do a lot of micromanaging, where you're going to do a lot of following up because nobody's following through, because they don't really have what they need to do anything past that basic thing that you handed them. So really, really important that you recognize that everything focuses back on you. You're the one who's going to make all the decisions, and you have to be the one who's communicating about everything because they can't read your mind, right? So this is all you focused. Now that keeps you stuck. If you don't go past that, you're always going to be that central point. You'll never get that freedom that you were looking for, and you'll never be able to disentangle yourself from fighting all the fires, fixing all the mistakes, doing all that stuff that keeps you stuck in the operational grind, because it's always dependent all on you. So this takes up a tremendous amount of your bandwidth, and it keeps you feeling like if you were, say you just decided to take a vacation for a month, you'd probably come back and your business wouldn't be in terribly good shape because nobody would know what to do without you. So the biggest problem with this is when you're looking to scale, when you're looking for hyper growth, you cannot duplicate yourself. You cannot multiply yourself. So at some point there's that organic ceiling that you become that bottleneck because still everything is going through you. And like I said in the beginning, the scary part is that this is all most business owners do. So we have to take that several steps further. So step 2, level 2 of this goes where you are not just giving people tasks, but you are starting to shift ownership of functional areas of your business. So that could be you're actually giving people ownership over entire projects, or you're giving them leadership over a team in your business. But this is really where they get a whole lot more than just these tiny little pieces, which also means you have to give them a lot more clarity, a lot more information, a lot more background, a lot more context for what they're actually taking on, how that fits into the overall business, how everything is connected. Because when something happens, they have to know what else all that impacts. So shifting ownership is a whole lot more demanding than just giving people simple tasks, which is why most business owners don't do it. Because the bad news is it'll require, no sugarcoating here, it will require a lot more of you, your time, your focus, your clarity on the front end. This is also where most business owners get stuck, because they don't necessarily have the clarity to give to their teams, because they're just kind of making it up as they go. There's no planning, there's no proactivity. There's so little that is actually in a very, that happens in a very planned way. So it's very difficult to hand things off when you don't understand how all the pieces work. So, but this is really where you start shifting ongoing responsibilities. So you give a task, not a task, but a project to somebody, and they will own that project from here on out. Every time it happens in a similar manner, they own that project. So this is really where people start taking charge. This is where they own it. So, you know, your employee Mike owns a specific area of your business now. That means he actually is responsible for the outcome. He understands how what he owns ties into the overall strategy of the business and what it impacts, who it impacts, so that he can make the right decisions, because something will always go off. So he has to be able to actually take that over and make sure that everything still keeps flowing. He has to be able to get resourceful. He has to be able to get creative sometimes to make those decisions. Otherwise, every time something breaks, it's back on you. So this is that tremendously important piece of, you're not just giving somebody a task, you're shifting responsibility, you're shifting ownership. So what that also involves is that Mike now also has to have the power to delegate to other people himself. Because when Mike is taking ownership over something, and at some point he may realize that he needs help, that this is too big for him, that he needs expertise that he needs to bring in, whatever it is, remember, he owns this piece. So he has to have the power, the authority to seek out other people and involve them into his project. So that means he's now creating a network of ownership. Now, that means everybody involved in that network owns responsibility. That sounds amazing, right? Because that means, hey, you're off and free. You can do what you need to do so you can actually build and grow your business. And the most important thing about this particular piece is that if you do this without preparation, without planning, without being really, really specific about it, Mike's not going to win, because Mike's not going to have what he needs to actually shift ownership himself. So we have to set up the culture and the expectations and the authority for him to be able to do that. So first of all, when we're talking culture, this has to be a culture where people value high performance, where they want to knock it out of the park for you, where you have high standards, where everybody understands the values. And most importantly, the expectation is that there's peer-to-peer delegation. So that means Mike can seek out whoever he thinks is the best fit to help him with this project, and he can call that person in and actually shift responsibility over to him, or that person, whoever that is. So that means that you have to grant Mike the authority, not just to Mike, but in front of the whole team. The whole team has to know that, hey, Mike owns this project, and he's going to do whatever he needs to do to make sure that he can actually get this done, which will involve engaging other people with this. So, of course, with that piece, what becomes more and more important is crystal clear communication, where we need to make sure that not only do you have meetings with your leaders who are doing this for you, who own projects for you, but so that at those meetings, for one thing, what's awesome is that they now learn from each other. They can pull each other in. This becomes very, very transparent, so everybody gets what's going on in the company on all the different levels. And that means they can engage each other with problem solving. They know if something goes off the rails, who else needs to know about it, who they can pull in. So this is where that network truly starts kicking in. So we need to make sure we have these cascading meetings where you have the meetings with your leaders, and then of course your leaders have to have those meetings with the people that they're working with. So whoever is engaged in their projects, they need to meet with, disseminate information that they got from you, update, problem solve, whatever it is that you do in a really, really good weekly action review meeting. And of course, then there need to be one-on-ones. You need to have one-on-ones with your leaders, and they need to have one-on-ones with their teams. So this is the communication aspect becomes critically important once we go that route. But again, remember, this is what will actually, once, it might sound complicated to set this up, and I'm not gonna lie about it. It takes some being very, very intentional, having the best system in place, and making sure that you consistently implement that. If you're not willing to do these things, it's not going to work, but you're also not going to get the freedom, the growth, and the opportunities that you could be getting when you do this right. So the biggest thing about this is once you create this network of responsibility and ownership, that means you are no longer in the middle. And that means you are becoming kind of more of a person on the outside. So you are becoming more of a mentor or coach, and you have your own position on the outside versus being the one that everybody goes to, being the hub. So it's more that you are a facilitator of an effective teamwork. So it is super, super important, because this is pretty much where, you know, your time commitment, where before you might have been working in the business 80% plus, now you can slowly switch that over, and it becomes, you know, where it was an 80-20, you're going towards a 20-80, which is where it needs to be or better. So this is what opens this up for you. So this is the kind of the mid-level, but then we have level 3, and that is now that mid-level, level 2 on steroids, where now we're shifting ownership of responsibility and really empowering those leaders to take charge of an entire business area. So where before they were owning projects or smaller pieces, now we're actually talking about they own an entire department, they own a specific area of your business. So this is where you truly transfer ownership and responsibility, and you have at that point minimal involvement. So the only time you'd get called in is if there's really nobody else who can help. So this is the place where all the freedom happens. This is where you truly own the business, and the business doesn't own you anymore. And I don't know about you, most of our clients are all, this is like the holy grail. This is where they want to be, where they can just make sure that they lead the business, they create the relationships, they coach their leaders, they support their leaders, but the rest of it is up to the team. And that's how it should be. And this is the only way you'll be able to set up a business you can truly scale and grow at a fast pace. So this is where you shift significant responsibility, like I said, of different business aspects, departments, relationships, whatever. But the other part that also happens is at that point, you take that network that we talked about, and now it really becomes a cross-departmental, multi-directional collaboration between not just team members, but entire teams. So now we're taking this up another level where people are starting to collaborate, make decisions together, and also make decisions independently because they know what they need to own for their business area. So it's always set up as in we're going to collaborate between each other, but we also have to make sure that we make the best decisions for the business from our perspective for our area. So this is more peer-to-peer delegation at a higher level. So, and then what happens is as you hire more people, once you're setting up this model, this network, then as new people come in, this is what they're stepping into. So they quickly realize that they're owning their own projects, areas, or teams. And now we're completely decentralizing ownership, where you really build a team that's self-actualized, that's proactive, that's self-sustaining. And these three levels, going through these three levels is absolutely crucial for that success that you're looking for. So everything we just talked about is where you go from task to ownership, from like prison to freedom, so that you can build this cohesive, interdependent team that's sustainable and scalable. So I hope this helps. Make sure that you implement this as soon as possible. You can, if you want more information, we have a brand new training out there that covers all this in detail. Go to bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com/jump, bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com/jump, and check out that entire training. So I will see you on the next video.